Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another outstanding Authors at Google talk. We have a true innovator with us today. How do you sustain innovation? How do you sell your ideas in the marketplace? How do you really, make things succeed? We're pleased to host Stephen Key today to give us some answers. He is a leading innovator. He was formerly the head of design for the World of Wonder group, and after delving into the world of laser tag and Teddy Ruxpin, he continues to work with innovative products such as the Spinformation labels and also a new drink called the Soyu Natural Teas. His work has garnered him a few Edison Awards, a lot of buzz in the industry, but he's especially well known for his recent book, of which today's book is the sequel in some ways. The current book is titled One Simple Idea for Startups and Entrepreneurs, and it continues the One Simple Idea series, though this time focusing on the startup side as opposed to the innovation and product side. And so we'll have the mic available for Q&A, and please join me in welcoming Stephen to Google. Thanks.
Well, good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here. In fact, I grew up in the Bay Area, so it's like coming home. I currently live in Modesto, which I call the creative capital of the world. And if anybody's ever been there, hopefully I'll get a laugh from that. But today I want to talk about my journey a little bit. You see, what I do for a living now, and what I've done for 30 years, is that I come up with simple ideas, and I license those ideas to companies, and every time they sell one of those ideas, I get paid. It's called licensing. It's basically renting an idea to a company, and like I said, every time they sell one, I get paid. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you do that without a lot of protection, like patents? How do you do that when you live in Modesto? And how do you work with some really large companies, and how do you license ideas? So today, I want to talk about some of the things that you can do, because I know everybody here is creative. I know that. I know everybody here has had an idea at one time or another, and you want to know, hey, what do I do with these ideas? Do I just let them sit? And if you do let them sit, you know what's going to happen? You're going to see them sooner or later. I can guarantee it. If they're not even good ideas, they can be okay ideas, but sooner or later you'll probably see those on the store shelves. So I want to start at the very beginning. I grew up in the Bay Area, and my father worked for General Electric, and he said, Steve, after I graduated from high school, he says, you need to go into business. And so I went to Santa Clara University, and I realized I hated it. I was a econ major, and everybody there had a smile on their face, and I couldn't stand it. So one day I took an art class by mistake, and I realized I really love working with my hands. I wanted to create things. So I went home, and I told my dad, I said, Dad, I want to be an artist. And he said, great, do you paint? And I said, well, no. He said, well, you must sculpt. You like to sculpt? And I said, well, no. So my father gave me some great advice. He said, whatever you want to do, just do it. And if you really love it, you'll be successful with it. So I went over to San Jose State, and it was a big shock to the system. And I joined the art department, and I realized very quickly I wasn't an artist either. But I wanted to make things, and I wanted to get my ideas out. So I left San Jose State a little early without a degree, and I started to just make things and sell them at street fairs. I was one of those guys that you go to these street fairs, they have them all over the Bay Area, and I'd set up a little table, and I would sell them, and I realized real quick, and one of the most important things that I've learned, that if it doesn't sell, you got to kick it to the curb as fast as you can and find an idea that does sell. Because if you're living off your ideas, in order to pay the rent, in order to pay the bills, you better find an idea that works. So I learned very quickly to test, and test. And if it doesn't work, get rid of it, find something new. So I was very fortunate because I'm 27 years old now, and all my friends think I'm the biggest loser on the planet. I'm selling things at street fairs. And sure enough, I read an article in the late 80s. There was a startup company called Worlds of Wonder, and they had this talking teddy bear, Teddy Ruxpin, and laser tag, and I went in for my first job at 27 years old. And the engineering department hired me because they didn't really know anything about stuffed animals, and that's what I was making at the street fairs, and so they hired me. And And we sold 5 million Teddy Ruxpins at $89. We were the 5th largest toy company in the world with one simple idea. And I was amazed. My job at Worlds of Wonder was to go overseas and help them start up manufacturing. Since I was a designer now, first job, I'd go over there, and I realized that the creator of Teddy Ruxpin was making $1 million a month in royalties. And I was on a production line watching this and making sure those teddy bears, they look great. And I realized right away, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that was collecting the royalties. So I left Worlds of Wonder, came back, and moved to that little town over there in the Central Valley, Modesto, and I met this wonderful woman there, and we ended up starting a family and raising 3 kids. So what I started out to do, and it was really simple, I thought if I just showed a company a great idea, if they liked it, they would pay me. It was as simple as that. And I remember the first idea I came up with. You see, I love playing basketball, and I have my office, and just to have some fun, I would shoot a little Nerf basketball game. I had a little ball there, and I'd shoot it. And it was so boring, I realized I wanted to create something different. So I went down to the store, I went to Toys R Us, and I looked at all the basketball games. And I realized they were all just square, and they were really boring. And so I put my creative cap on. I started coming up with crazy ideas. What could I do to a basketball game? And I couldn't wait for my wife to get home because I came up with this one idea I wanted to share with her. You see, the woman I met at Worlds of Wonder, Janice Kimball, she had gone to Stanford. She has her MBA at Northwestern. And now she's at Gallo. She's vice president of marketing for Gallo, the largest wine company in the world. She's the highest ranking woman they've ever had. And she's excellent at new products, right? So I can't wait for her to get home because I want to show her my new basketball game. And so we put the kids to bed, and we slip into bed, and I have this big sketch pad, and I'm here to tell you guys, the last thing you want to do is bring home your work. The second thing you don't want to do is bring home your work to bed. And we sat there, and I went through my ideas with my wife, and she said, Steve, and at the very end was the last idea. I called it was a basketball game, and I took the picture of Michael Jordan from a poster, and I just slapped it on the backboard. And I called it Hoop Hoop Hooray. It was a terrible name. So I shared it with my wife, and she said, Steve, that's the worst idea I've ever seen. The chances of you licensing that idea are about 1 in a million. Come up with another idea. So the very next day, I sent it off to that company. It was called Ohio Art because they had the license for Michael Jordan now. And I loved Michael Jordan, but it was a little picture. And when I sent my idea in, they loved it. And 3 days later, I had this contract from Ohio Art. And they called it the Michael Jordan Wall Ball, and it sold for 10 years. And every time they sold one, I got paid. So it allowed me to basically do whatever I want, but for 10 years, I collected those royalties. Now I want you to imagine this. It's Saturday morning, I'm sitting on the couch, and I have my kids there, and Janice is on the end, and I'm sitting there, and Michael Jordan comes up on this commercial, and he shoots it, and he makes the bucket, he turns around, looks at the camera, and he says, this is the best looking backboard I've ever seen. And I'm sitting there, and I look over at my wife, and I'm going, what I realize, and what I want to tell everybody here, the only opinion that matters when it comes to ideas is the companies you're licensing it to. It's not your friends, it's not your family, it's those companies. Now, what's really great about licensing ideas to companies, I call it renting an idea to a company, is that you can do it anywhere in the world. And you can do it just by taking a few steps. And I want to go through some of those steps. These same steps are in my first book called One Simple Idea. McGraw-Hill contacted me about 2 years ago, and they said, Steve, you've got this great system of how to license ideas. You've licensed ideas in the toy industry, the novelty gift industry, the packaging industry. Why don't you share how you do these 10 steps? So I did, and I've been teaching these 10 steps for many, many years, and people have been following these steps, and they've been licensing ideas. So I'm here to tell you that you don't have to start a company, right? I mean, everybody thinks that I'm going to have to raise money, I need to protect my ideas, and I'm going to need to start a company and all this stuff. And I'm here to tell you, you need to look at licensing if you're creative, because companies are looking for ideas. In fact, how many people have heard of open innovation? Raise your hand. Is it pretty? Okay, not a few. Open innovation is really simple. companies have realized we don't have all the great ideas. So they realized that if we open the doors to everybody, people can submit ideas to our company. And one company is leading the charge. It's Procter & Gamble. You can go to their site, and they list what they're looking for. So what they've decided, and I think a lot of companies have decided, is that, look, I might have the brightest guys in the back room, but how can I expand my reach of ideas? And it's called open innovation. If you're not familiar with it, please take a look at it. You'll be amazed at what companies want your ideas, what companies are looking for ideas. And it's global. It's not just here, it's around the world now. It's called open innovation. Please look at that. Now, let's get back to what do you really need to license an idea? Well, it's really quite simple. You need to study the marketplace. You need to find a hole. Now, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? When you reinvent the wheel, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of education, it's going to take a lot of time. But if you look at any marketplace and you find that uniqueness that other people have missed, and what's really amazing, if you look at it close enough, you can look between the lines and you will see openings. I like to look at those as finding crumbs on the table that big companies have missed because they're too busy, either putting out fires or running their day-to-day business. But there's opportunity for people like myself and for others that want to start companies, that want to license ideas. So you're looking for sleeping dinosaurs, is what I'd like to say it. And once you find that opportunity, you need to submit it to a company. Now, everybody asks, Steve, aren't you afraid that someone's going to steal your idea? Right? I'm not afraid at all. Because some things have happened, some things have changed in the last 10 years. Number one, because of open innovation, a lot of companies are looking for ideas, number one. And because of the internet, if someone treats you poorly, you can talk about it. Now that has changed the whole game, the profile, right? Companies are a little bit afraid of people posting things that are negative about their company. So companies are playing fair for the first time. And number two, intellectual property. Does anybody here file patents? Anybody know about patents here? A few? Okay. You can file, the United States Patent and Trademark Office has these great tools. They're very, very affordable. And the first tool I like to talk about is called a provisional patent application. Right? It's a wonderful tool. You can file it yourself for $125, meaning you can play the biggest game in the world with $125. Now that is truly amazing. It's called a provisional patent application. If you're not familiar with it, go to the USPTO and start reading about provisional patent applications. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. And there's many other ones as well. So look at those tools. You know what those tools do? They give you perceived ownership. Because I don't think you ever own anything. Everybody wants to own something. I don't think you do. Now I have 13 patents, and one of my patents is on a technology, like here, I don't know if you can see it, but when you turn the label, you get additional information. I'm going to pass this around. This technology is called Spinformation. It won an Edison Award a year and a half ago. And I remember being back in New York with my group. Here's another one. This one's got animation. When you spin it, you'll see animation.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what was really great about this idea, well, first of all, it won an Edison Award along with Coke, Nike, Apple, Stephen Key Design, my company. And I was really amazed at how powerful a simple idea is, how powerful an idea is by finding opportunities, filing a provisional patent and going down that road. Now I'm going to pass those around. What you're seeing now, that's called AccuDial. That's the correct way of dosing your child by the weight of your child, not by the age of your child. And you're going to see this more and more. We rolled out up in Canada, and you're going to see some of the national pharmaceutical companies use this next because it's the correct way of dosing your child. But this gets even better because I have 13 patents on that technology. 13. I've even, 13 on this one technology. Now people ask, wow, 13. Why so many? Well, there's a lot of different label formats, right? And you start thinking about Pepsis and Cokes and Campbell's soup. And so I filed all these patents on all these different technologies, right? But I remember, is anybody familiar with prior art searching too, this group? No? Well, you can always do, this is what I love, go to Google Patents, right, which is like a godsend for someone like myself because it's so easy to do, and the USPTO site is terrible, but Google Patents is really fast. But you can look at other people's ideas really quickly and see if your idea is a new one, right? So this idea that I licensed and sold over 500 million labels with that idea, right? And I collected a royalty off every time they sold one. And in fact, I just sold my company